All right, so I would like to invite Vince Mirabelli to our Blueprints for Success. It's wonderful to have you here, all the way from Canada. So thank you for joining us, Vince.
Thrilled to be here. I'm so excited to have this conversation and have this opportunity to just reach out across the world and say hello.
It is wonderful. I must say, we were having a bit of a yarn before, just saying how fantastic it is to be able to meet everybody
Mm,
from anywhere these days through the
mm.
technology. So it's great. So let's dive into it, Vince. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, who you are, what do you do, so that the audience at least gets to know you, who you are.
Wow. How much time do you have? I'm Vince Mirabelli, based out of Toronto, just north of Toronto, rather. Right now, I'm a principal research director with a firm called Infotech Research Group. So, what I do is I research and put together materials that support how work is done to make companies more efficient, more effective, and better at what they do. So creating these step-by-step, we call them blueprints that help them solve a problem. My particular area of focus has been in the BA requirement space, but I've touched a little bit of Agile, a little bit of product, a little bit of strategy and applications. Very diverse coverage area for what I do now. But in terms of background, I like to say that I have more letters after my name than I have in it. I am a certification junkie machine. I'm a certified BA through the IIB. I'm a PMP from that other associate.
Mhm.
We're all here from project management. I've got certifications in change management, cybersecurity, Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, Lego Serious Play, innovation and design thinking. You name it, I'm like the Swiss
Mhm.
Army knife projects. I once described myself at a conference as the Death Star of problem solving. And someone then rightfully pointed out that the Death Star blew up twice. I'm like, that's a
So
good
that's
point.
probably not the best option.
It, but
Hmm.
I was just trying to show the
Yeah.
scale and the magnitude of like how I can focus in on a problem. But so that's a little bit of my background in terms of where I came from. I came through a very non-traditional route to business analysis. So growing up, or rather when I was in school, I took political science and law. That's I have a double degree in political science and law with a specialization in international political economy.
Wow.
So yeah, it's very applicable to the BA space. And originally, I was going to be the Prime Minister of Canada, but that didn't work out. And so I had to find an alternative use for my skills and came across this new and emerging profession in and around the early 2000s called business analysis. And just, yeah, this is a fit. This makes sense.
Okay. I still think having some political acumen, though, is highly beneficial in your work. So maybe some of those skills did transfer quite well.
100% they did. As soon as I made that connection between stake states and stakeholders and realizing that they're actually the same, that everybody operates in their own self-interest, that everybody's just looking for what they can do to benefit them, essentially the what's in it for me. And how do you then give them that so that you can arrive at a place of consensus? So that was a critical piece for me. And it's probably why I've defaulted to being more of a strategic business analyst than a very tactical, technical BA.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is really needed because the role is so diverse as well. You can
Yes.
be working in government, you can be working in retail, anywhere really. Yeah, I suppose having that acumen would be really helpful. Do you think that there are any key experiences or turning points that have really shaped your career now moving forward into this business analysis environment? And I know you've got multiple, you wear multiple hats, so it's not, I'm
Yeah.
not limiting you to business analysis, but are there any key areas there?
So a few. I'm gonna go in what I think is chronological order. So one, is one thing that I found was critical was being able to be myself at work. And so one of the first things that was a major catalyst for me being able to contribute as a strategic BA was having a leader that actually understood the value that brings. And
Yeah.
so understanding that you see things differently, and that's a good thing, it's not a detriment. So being able to see things and then challenge assumptions. That's something I love doing. I'm sometimes I get to play the devil's advocate and I'll do it just for fun, but it's really about seeing multiple perspectives and solving problems in three dimensions. So that was one. The second one is related to how I became a speaker and a thought leader or whatever, you know. And that was really, we talked about this before, and I said I was going to tell a story, and I'm gonna do it now. It was really that was the catalyst for that was becoming a dad. So we were expecting our first child, and there was this overwhelming realization of, oh my God, I got to take care of this other thing now. And I had just read the book Entrepreneurial You by Dory Clark. That started with wealthy in the world have on average 7 streams of income. How many do you have? And so I was sitting there thinking, I've got one.
Yeah.
I work. And that became a terrifying, I became motivated by fear. And so I'm like, okay, what else can I do? And I thought, you know what? I want to try to speak at a conference and just see if I like it, and just so that I can say, so I can put it on my resume, and just loved it and loved the being able to share. I'm still amazed that anybody cares what I think about anything. So that was a big piece. And I'd like to say that was a very sweet story without getting into too much detail. The other thing that's really I've found helped me, especially in the last few years, was going into the pandemic period, starting a completely ridiculous web stream show called Analyst After Work,
Hmm.
which was just, it was my way of staying connected with people that I saw at conferences. That's all I ever saw it being, but it actually fostered this broader community of BAs and beyond, to the point where I have now peers, colleagues, friends all across the world that I probably would not have as a result of not starting that show.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the work that I'm doing with LinkedIn Learning, which has
Mm.
really started. So all of these it's snowballed my own persona, I don't know what to even call it, but they've all been critical to the work that I do, but also just who I've become as a speaker and as a professional.
So here's a challenge for you.
Okay.
They said 7 sources. I counted 4. What are the next
For
3?
you or for, yeah. So I do have a day job, so that's 1.
Okay.
I do speak, so that's 2. LinkedIn Learning is 3. I do have my own training
Mm.
program called Love the Process Academy, which has gone a little bit quiet, but I'm going to be coming out with a new program really soon aimed at mid and senior level BAs. Really excited for that. I've
Yeah.
kept it under wraps, but that's going to be out
Uh-huh.
soon. So that's 4. Am I missing any? Oh, investments. But I don't talk about that. Cryptocurrency, but I don't want to talk about that one either,
Yeah.
because it's a rabbit hole. So I'm up to
I'm
6.
just
I'm
being
close.
cheeky.
I'm close.
Yeah.
No, I know.
But it's a really good idea. It really is, because
Mm,
I suppose also when you think about retirement, or even as people get older, some opportunities might not present themselves. So you almost have to make your own opportunities. You have to be not self-reliant necessarily completely, but you've also got to take ownership of your income, not
yeah,
just rely that it'll always be there. And I think, let's say, older generations could have relied on working for one company for their whole life, and that would then have a pension and so forth. But the reality today just isn't, that just isn't a reality. There's so much
yeah.
change happening, right? In your own
And I
words. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I just want and I find like without giving away my age, I'm in this really weird overlap of generations. So
Mm.
so again, I'm going to demonstrate how much of a nerd I am. So they coincide with the original trilogy of Star Wars.
Oh,
So those born between 1977 and 1983, they're sometimes called exennials. They demonstrate the traits of both Gen X, which is
uh-huh.
very go to work for a single employer, get your pension, and the millennials, which are much more that hustler
Hmm.
mentality. And to have both of those is terrifying.
It's almost like you're
But
constantly at, what's it called? Like you're in a state of chaos because the two have opposing thought
yeah,
processes.
I'm completely broken. I don't know how to relax anymore. Like even when I'm just sitting there like
Mm.
I'm still thinking and doing and solving problems. So like I'm broke. I can't go on vacation. I'm just completely broken.
Awesome.
Oh my.
Maybe let's look at business analysis. So, in your own words, how would you describe the importance and role of business analysis? And could
Mhm.
you please touch on how you got about empowering leaders and organizations to deliver cultures of high process performance and continuous improvement? Quite a
So I'll do the
mouthful.
first. Yeah, I'll do the first one first. So the importance and role of business analysis is critical.
Yeah.
And this is something I will say until I can't speak anymore. Everything starts with good business analysis. Everything. It's not necessarily the sexiest work, like requirement solicitation and planning. It's not cool. It's not AI. It's not cybersecurity. It's not like architecture. It's not cool,
Yeah.
but it is the foundation for all of those things to happen. And
Hmm.
so business analysis, I think as a profession, we need to step up and actually start claiming some of that coolness, put some swagger in the work that we do, um, so that we can make it cool again. So I think it's a foundational function, it's a foundational job. And I can't think of any business that would be successful without mature business analysis practice. So that's that. How do I go about empowering leaders to take ownership and practice this concept of continuous improvement and improve their performance? One is through encouraging this concept of intrapreneurship. So we all know what an entrepreneur does,
Yeah.
right? But having an intrapreneur, someone that does what an entrepreneur does, but within an organization, right? They solve problems, they find solutions, they make things better. Now that can often conflict. I know I've been in those situations where it conflicts with
Yes.
the attitudes and the culture of the organization, but that idea of challenging the work that you do and trying to make things better and solve problems is a key. So for me, and I'll put on my master black belt hat for a second here, when we talk about continuous improvement, it's recognizing that there's always something you can do better. That's how you build that culture. There's always something that you can do better. And that some people will take that as a criticism of you're telling me that I'm not an effective leader, I'm not doing something right. And it's not about pointing fingers. It's not about the person. It's about the failure in the process. Let's make the process better. The people
Yes.
don't matter. People matter, but let's make the process better, and then let's fix that, and what that does is it creates this virtuous cycle, this flywheel effect, because we're no longer spending time working on things that don't matter, that don't add value, and instead we're focusing on stuff that actually drives results, drives outcomes, and makes things better. So it's this virtuous cycle of just awesomeness.
Mm. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think it is important that I love the term intrapreneur.
Mhm,
Firstly, I consider myself an entrepreneur, but I like the term intrapreneur because I understand the concept of
mhm,
having a vested interest, skin in the game, and so I like that a lot. I think it makes good sense. Can
yeah.
you perhaps share a project or initiative where business analysis, and you did say in the beginning that business analysis should always be first, but where it absolutely played a critical role in the success of our project? And what were your challenges and opportunities that you saw?
I'm going to flip that question on its head. I'm going to tell you a story of when business analysis was not used
Okay.
and the absolute disaster that resulted. So I was brought in way too late on a project that, let's just call it the button project. Was a challenge. I'm not going to protect the innocent. I'm going to be as vague as possible, but effectively, a leader had already decided. They were like, we're having this problem with too many complaints coming in through our phone channel. What we need, you know what we need? We need a button on the website that's gonna make it easier for all of that work to happen. And by the time I got engaged, the project team was already running full steam. And okay, how are we going to build this button? How is it going to plug into the back end? How is it going to do what we needed to do? And I went, hold on, stop a second, folks. What problem is this button going to solve? Because the way that I see it, the problem is there are too many customer complaints coming in.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is you're opening an additional channel to customer complaints. You're not solving the problem, you're just shifting it from the phone to the web. Oh, but we're going to automate it and make it seamless. And like, yes, but we're not solving the problem.
Yeah.
Now, here was the problem that I had, or the challenge that I had. They were so far down the road that they had already committed. It was
Relate.
one of those, it was very much yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You told us to put a button on the website. That's exactly what we're going to do, even if it doesn't add value.
Yeah.
And so that's what ended up happening. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a strong enough argument because there were
Yeah.
just too many voices that were overruling me. And so in the end, I'm like, all right, let's put a stupid button on our website. And here's what's going to, and I laid out, here's what's going to happen. And within a few weeks, the button was gone because it had exacerbated it just made it way worse. So
Mm.
that's there. So again, business analysis, foundational, but needs to be engaged early so that we can talk about that stuff at the point where you actually can have some influence and impact the final solution.
Yeah. I think it's so important to really understand problems. You see so many businesses go, oh, here's a nice new shiny system that we're going to put in, but
Mhm.
how do you know? And there's also things like technical debt, right? That extra button is going to create some maintenance with it. And how are we going to manage that maintenance? What does that mean?
Right.
How is that going to be looked after?
And that's the thing that actually terrifies me about AI right now,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's that shiny thing. I cringe when I hear AI is going to enhance productivity. Like I hear senior leaders talk about this all the time. We're going to leverage AI because it's going to enhance our productivity. Again, what problem are you trying to solve, and how is AI going to support you in that? And so I wrote a piece of research for Infotech called "Get Started with AI in Requirements Management," and it the it started with how can BAs use AI. That was my starting place. But what I found was, as I was talking to people and engaging and doing my research, that wasn't the right problem to solve at that moment. The right problem was, how do we even get started with this? Because there's a risk that companies are going to just start throwing money at AI solutions without having a use case that is necessary, that is needed. And so it was like, okay, hold on, let's talk about how to
Yes.
get started with AI. How do you get your toe in the water? How do you experiment as an individual? And then how do you leverage that as part of your team and your organizational work? Because that's the risk, is that we need AI. Okay, for what? To,
Mm-hmm.
to accomplish what? To solve what problem, or to take what advantage of what opportunity?
Yeah. I do agree. I think it's really important that business analysts, especially, still understand how to validate and verify, and definitely understand how to identify and solve a problem. They don't necessarily have to solve the problem, like somebody else can do that. But if you don't know what the
Mhm.
problem is, how do you know if it's the right solution. Those are very important things. And AI is going to give you really good results based on bad prompts if you don't actually know how to ask the right questions, if you don't know what the problem is that you're trying to solve, you're just going to get the same type of answers. It
It's
just
garbage
mimics.
in, garbage out.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. It just
It's yeah,
mimics what you you already do.
100%.
Mm.
I just came back from recording another course for LinkedIn Learning. The title is still in development, but it's essentially AI for BAs. How can business analysts leverage AI? And I intentionally, as I'm going through and showing, okay, here's the importance of prompts. Here's how you write a good prompt. Here's why it matters. And consider a prompt a conversation with your AI tool. Now, I still, when I'm using prompts, I still say please and thank you. You don't have to, but I do just in case. You never know when they're going to gain sentience and remember, oh, you're the guy that said thank you. So I'm
Yeah.
not gonna subjugate it. But I would intentionally, as I was demonstrating some of the tools, I would actually show, okay, here's my initial prompt. And it was just very generic, it was terrible. I'm like, look, here's what I gave, here's what I got. This is
Yeah.
unusable. Now, when I write it this way, look at the results that I get.
Mm.
And so it really is a matter of garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, it's gonna
Absolutely. Mhm.
fundamentally change what we do, but we got to learn how to use it.
Yeah. It's certainly going to have to be a technique that needs to be
Yes.
added to the toolbox, and it needs
Mm,
to be added fairly soon because that is the reality. Although we say that, but businesses do take a long time to adopt things just by virtue of the fact that you got thousands and thousands of people, and
mhm.
it's not easy just to, if you're a small business, obviously it's easy. You can just go, oh, yep, we decide that and we can do it. But if you're a really large organization, it's not a piece of cake to
No, for
do.
sure.
So that kind of brings me into the next question, which is over the next 5 to 10 years, how do you, I know we spoke about AI a little bit, but what do you
Yeah.
see happening in the business analysis field?
So this is an interesting one. So I did a keynote at a conference late last year, and I debuted a new keynote that I called um, "Just Beyond the Horizon: What's Next for Business Analysis." And it essentially took the three horizons model, which is a technique I'm sure you're familiar with, and looked at, okay, when I look out 1 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, and 5 to 10 years, what do I see in the BA space that's going to impact the BA space? AI is actually spanned all three because AI is here, but it's also in its infancy. So there's that aspect of it. The piece that actually had the greatest reaction from the audience, from the people that, like, there was an audible gasp when I said what I'm about to say. There was just, what I said was, get ready for the end of Agile. Get ready
Mhm.
for the death of Agile. And there's just this, what do you mean? Agile is so popular, it's so useful. It's nobody actually does Agile well. Sorry,
Mhm.
let me walk that back. I don't want to overgeneralize.
No.
Very few organizations do Agile truly well. And so you start to see this agilification of everything. Agile HR, agile IT, agile finance, and so it's become this amorphous blob of just stuff. So when I say agile is going away, I don't mean agility is going away. I don't mean that ability, what IIBA is now calling nimble, right? That ability to think and react quickly. That's not going away. Agile as a discipline, I think, in the next, and I put it in the second horizon. In the 2 to 5 years, agile as a discipline and methodology will go away
Mhm.
because I see parallels with Lean Six Sigma in the 80s and 90s. So Lean Six Sigma went away as well, it hasn't gone away, but it fell out of fashion
Mhm.
because it's very rigid, it was very strict. But the tools morphed into this other thing. And a lot of them actually made their way into Agile, right? If you
Yeah.
think about Kanban boards and like all of that
Mm.
stuff, all the stuff that made sense just became something else. So I think something is going to replace Agile as a discipline and as a methodology. I don't know what it is, but something will replace it. And what it's going to do is it's going to take the best pieces of Agile and just morph it into something else. We start to see it a little bit with SAFe and that scaled Agile framework. So we're already starting to see the fragmentation of Agile. So I that was, but it just the reaction that I got, I was not expecting. Was not expecting it. So yeah, AI is going to grow in importance. It's going to transform how we do work. And one of the things that I say in my research is AI will never replace a BA that knows how to use AI, will replace a BA that doesn't. And
Yeah.
so I consider this time our on ramp to learning. And this is the time to take advantage and
Yeah.
learn. So those are two of the ways that I see it
I would
changing.
absolutely agree with you. I think it would be it's I'm gonna probably give away my age, when websites first literally came out, and I remember businesses going, "We don't need a website."
Right.
And I was like, "You will absolutely need a web." But at the time, they didn't absolutely need a website because they had the yellow pages and they had their
Yeah.
banners and they had their clientele and all of those kind of things. But with a little bit of foresight, you can see that customers were going, I'm just going to go on the internet and find a vendor. I'm not going to go and drive around the streets and look for
Mhm.
biggest fanciest building to go that, yeah, that's the lawyer I'm going to go and see, right? Because that
Yeah.
was what it was. And it's pretty much the same with AI in my mind, is that
Mhm.
it might not happen this year, but it will be a thing. It's not a matter of, or maybe, or it will certainly be a tool that will be used as communication, as improving time management, all of that kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's important that BAs, I agree with you,
Yeah.
put in the effort. Put in the effort. It's worth the reward at the end of the day.
And I'm going to build one more on top of what you just talked
Good.
about there. I think the next thing is we're going to do more and more in the metaverse.
Yeah,
If you're not already experimenting in the metaverse, getting comfortable with meeting people in a you're face to face, but you're not. And that's essentially what we're doing here, right?
yeah,
We are halfway around the globe from each other, and yet we're having this conversation. It's not that far off, but getting more and more like having meetings in the metaverse, being able to do this and have conversations, I think is going to become more and more prevalent. So again, it's that one I would probably put beyond because the metaverse
yeah, the 10
technology
year.
is
Yeah.
it's still not there. I've experimented with some, but it's mostly like digital farming. It's sad, but we'll save that for another conversation. But it's a very strategic game, so that's what drew me in. But just understand, having a place on the internet. There's several diverses that exist, and you're already seeing companies trying to buy up prime real estate in this digital land because I'm on the main street, and this is where I think people are going to find
Yeah.
me, and we can have parties. Like it's. I think we're at a really interesting time in history.
That is fascinating, trying to create this almost digital twin of real life.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
essentially what it is. It's a
Yeah.
digital twin. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, in your current role, do
Mhm.
you see any challenges or opportunities that you're working on, like today, kind of thing?
Yeah. So in my role is a little bit different now than it was in my previous organization. Right now, my role as a principal research director is research. There's aspects of advisory baked into my role, which means I'm able to connect with organizations around the world and give them guidance, give them advice. And that was one of the things that drew me to Infotech as an organization was the ability to so in my old organization, I was able to contribute to the success of one company, and that was great because it was a public organization, and it was a cause that I really believed in and wanted to do good for the people of Ontario. But now I have the ability to influence organizations around the world. We were talking earlier about a client that I have based out of Brisbane, just working with folks around the world and being able to share my knowledge and my skills and be able to help them mature their practices and how they do things. So it's both a challenge and an opportunity. I think there's a lot of room for us to continue to mature our business analysis practices. And I think being able to connect the world and share that across has
Yeah.
been just absolutely amazing. In terms of the types of stuff that I'm working on, no surprise, right now I'm very heavy on the AI piece, looking at how AI can be leveraged I've also written research on how to use generative AI in your test automation strategy. Actually just did a webinar on that. Very heavy into AI right now, but still want to stay grounded and stay connected to what's happening right now in the world, not just because AI is there and it's hot and everyone wants to know about it, but there's still a need for us to establish good practices because AI
Yeah.
will not give us those good practices. So we need
Hmm.
to build the solid foundation first. So that's again a challenge and an opportunity for us.
Yes. Yeah. I would agree with you. Any
Yeah.
skills, competencies, tools that you see people needing as BAs?
So I think it depends on what type of BA you are. And this is what's really interesting about the BA role, business analysis as a role and as a function. You can be a strategic BA who uses tools like SWOT analysis and Pestle and Three Horizons and the Five Forces and like that sort of thing. You could be a very technical, like a business systems analyst, where you understand coding and you understand the development world and the solution development lifecycle. And so I think it depends from a tools perspective. What type of BA are you? What's interesting though is, and I found this in all of the best BAs that I've spoken to, there's a couple of, I guess what I would describe as competencies, mindsets, just the way that they think about things. And it's really about having a level of curiosity and a need to understand. And when you
Mm.
put those two things together, they are incredibly powerful. So if you were that kid that would take apart a radio to see how it worked and how, like, that's how I knew that. I'm like, oh, this is just like when I was a kid and I would take things apart and then try to put them back together. And when it didn't work, try to figure out why, which is
Again.
very rarely. I
Mm.
very rarely did it work. But I think it's about mindset, and I think that's the thing that's consistent across VAs is that mindset. And for me, I think it's about curiosity and just a need to understand how to put the puzzle back together.
Yeah. I think that puzzle, that need where you play games and you have to solve that puzzle and you just, oh, one more try, it
Hmm.
can go against you, but it also is a good trait to have as a BA where, oh, this puzzle really needs resolution.
Before I
Yeah.
throw it out the window, like,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You have those
yeah,
moments.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
could you share any advice or lessons learned for professionals entering the field of business analysis?
That's something, yeah, it's one word, it's network. This is something that I did not do very well early in my career, to my own detriment. It wasn't until I started speaking and getting out in public. I always saw myself as like BAs are just in the background. We're the unsung hero of
Mhm.
projects. And then it was like, I want some credit too. I'm not happy just letting everyone else celebrate how awesome this project turned out. I had a hand in it too. So it was actually getting out and speaking at conferences that you might not be able to tell, just natural, just total introvert. After this is done, I'm going to pass out and fall asleep because this is I've got to be up. This is a performance for me. Anybody that has seen me at a conference knows what I'm saying is exactly true, because I will disappear after a keynote and you won't see me for hours, and I'm
Mm.
just in the hotel room sleeping because I need to.
I'm the
Um,
same. I'm the
yeah,
same. I know
but
people don't believe you though, because you can put your heart into something, but yeah, it can be exhausting.
it's 100% exhausting. But I would say so networking for me, I actually made a video at one of the first conferences I ever spoke at. Was the PMI Toronto annual conference in, I want to say, 2016 or something like that. And I actually made a video that I posted up. You could probably find it on the internet, on my YouTube channel, where I was standing in the corner and this is called networking for introverts. And I just turned my phone around and it was just me standing in a corner,
That's
because it's
hilarious.
just, it's not I can't do it. And that was one of the things that motivated me to become a speaker, was that I could do my talk and then people would
And walk
approach me.
away.
No, but people would approach me at like the
Oh,
networking
yes,
reception or
yes.
whatever. So I don't have to take the pressure of going up to a group and saying, "Hey, how are you? Can I join this conversation?" I could let the conversation come to me. So it's completely
That's a good
self-motivated.
strategy. Yeah.
It's a great strategy. But having, like, being able to network and just recognizing that you've got something to share, and that you can benefit from others and really share challenges, share successes, and just build and grow together. Because I think that's a really powerful thing for our careers.
Would definitely
I'm gonna
agree with
cry
you.
now.
There's
Yeah,
no, there are a lot of people who want to get into the career and just say things, how do I get a job? No, there's training and certification and those kind of things that you should look into. Those are one of the
sure.
pillars. But I absolutely agree. Unless you truly understand the network and the nuances and the information from other people, you're really not going to be truly understanding what's involved in being a business analyst. You need to put in some effort into, joining the club or whatever you want to call it. If you want
Yeah,
to be a swimmer, you join the swim team, join the swim club.
exactly.
Mm.
I describe that as, when I'm talking about this, as the art and the science of business analysis. So there's the science piece, which you need, right? How do you build a swim lane diagram? How do you build a context diagram? How do you build a requirements document? How do you build a test case and a use case and all that stuff? Yes, you need that.
Hmm.
The art is, how do I engage stakeholders? How do I build relationships? How do I communicate effectively? And that's a lot harder to teach. So coming from a political science background, I knew that implicitly,
Mm.
instinctively, like, you need to build relationships. So that was an area of focus for me early on. Was I the best BA? Probably not. Am I still the best BA? Still the worst? I'm still not great. I know enough. That ability to build relationships with people and really understand them, that's the art. And that's the hard part that
Yeah.
I don't know that we put enough focus on.
Mm. Mm. Okay, lastly, but not least,
Right.
is if you could go back in time to a younger Vince, because we spoke about generations, so you gave away some
Yes,
clues.
I did. Yes.
So, a younger Vince, what advice would you give yourself starting your career?
Right out the, I don't know, this is a joke, but it's not a joke. Vince, buy Bitcoin. Buy it when it's $1, not today. I think the last price I saw was 90,000 Canadian. Buy as much as you can in 2008 and 2009. So there's that.
I
There's that.
would,
Yeah, right. Because then I don't have to worry about my career. I could just be like,
yeah.
I've got 10,000 Bitcoin. I'm a 90 millionaire. I'm good. But that doesn't help you. It doesn't answer your question. So what I would go back, and if I could travel back in time, the advice that I would give myself is recognize that a lot, and trust that what you're talking about. But find the people that are the sharers, because you don't know enough. So little. So find those people, and I will say, through my career, I have done a really good job of finding the sharers. And I'm not going to name names. Some of them have been on your show. One of them, I told you I was really upset, was on the show before me. But but having a group of people that you can share with, bounce ideas off of. Know that you know what you're talking about, but also know that they have a perspective that is truly invaluable. And when you can pull all of that together, you will be unstoppable.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like
Thank
that a
you.
lot. That's
Yeah.
some good advice. So,
Thank you.
Vince, you're obviously a
Yes.
busy guy, right? You have got lots of things on the go. How can people get in touch? What is the best way in which for them to contact you?
So the easiest way is through my website, vincentmirabelli.com. That is it's my website, so it's my home on the web. I was back to our conversation earlier about folks that didn't need a website. I was smart enough to be able to buy my name. Someone told me, buy your name. I didn't get Vince Mirabelli, so I had to get Vincent, which is fine. It's my real name. But vincentmirabelli.com is probably the best place. You can also get me on LinkedIn. It's probably the platform that I'm the most active on. But from my website, you can get to all of my social media, my YouTube channel, Instagram, which I don't use enough, but you can get everything. And there's links to all of my private courses, including the one that will be launching very soon. Very excited. I haven't even shared the name out in the world. I will do it at some point. But also my LinkedIn learning courses and speaker videos and samples, and just that's the place to go.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And we'll add the links to the session as well. So that'll all be good. So, Vince, I just want to thank you for your time and sharing your insights. They are much appreciated. I'm sure people have found it quite motivating. So, hopefully,
I hope
but
so.
yeah, and I hope you enjoy your nap after this extroverted session.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to have the conversation and happy to get to know you.
Too. Okay, thanks a lot.